Believers, just an easy one to jump into to sort of get us going here on the oneness of God. Your explanation of Genesis 1:26, let us make man in our image after our likeness.
Okay, let's look at Genesis 1, the creation account. God said, let us make man in our image and our likeness. Now, that's a use of a plural. We have to ask, what does that signify? Actually, scholars today will say you can't read a Trinity back into that. Your Old Testament scholars even will say it's not fair to read a Trinity because the ancient people weren't thinking in those terms. If you try to read a Trinity, you immediately run into problems. You just start with a simple thing. Who's God? Is God the Trinity? So the Trinity said, let us make man. Well, who's the Trinity talking to? Oh, we say, no, that's the Father. So the Father is more God than the other two. So you're really saying when you see God, you really mean the Father. Well, that's skewing the doctrine of the Trinity. So if you want to say, well, the Father was speaking to the Son, then you can ask, well, the Son is born of a woman. The Son is God manifest in the flesh. Was Mary back there too? You know. So let's approach this several different ways. Look at the next verse, which is the fulfillment. So God created man in his own image. It switches back to the singular. And you look at the man he created, Adam. Well, you could say Adam is body, soul, spirit, mind, will, etc., etc. At the end of the day, he's one person with one personality, and as such, he is the image of his creator. So that right there tells you God is not a Trinity, because Adam is not a Trinity. Adam is one person reflecting his creator. Okay, and then if you go to another passage in Isaiah 44:24, it says, God stretched out the heavens alone. He says it in the first person. I stretched out the heavens alone and the earth by myself. So God himself says, when I created everything, I did it alone, and I did it by myself. So what I'm suggesting is, it really isn't appropriate to try to add a second person as a pre-existent being when the Bible is very clear that God did it all alone and by himself. Now, that still leaves the question, why did he say, let us? And I'll give you 4 options. You can think about what you like. The first one, I think, is the plural of deliberation. We see this in English. If I sit down and say, let's see, what am I going to do today? Let's see. Literally, let us see. Who am I talking to? Myself. It's deliberation. So could it be, when God created the universe, it says, God said, let there be light. God did this, God did that, God did that. When it comes to humans, he slows down. And he says, we're going to think about this. We're going to plan this. And then he creates Adam from dust. And then he creates Eve from the side of Adam. Now, of course, God can do everything instantly and all that, but it's trying to speak in human terms to say, when God created us, he thought about it. He planned it. It wasn't just, oh, I'm throwing this out, throwing that out, I'm having fun. No, this was special. This took his personal time and care. So I think when he says, let us make man, that's his way of saying, this is really important to me. I'm going to deliberate about this. I'm going to plan this. I'm going to make sure this is what I really want. That's the deeper significance. Now, another point, which you can see in places in the Bible, Ezra, Nehemiah, so on, there is what's called the royal plural, which also we have in English, that when a royal person speaks, they sometimes speak we. Like the Queen of England famously said when she gets offended, we are not amused. That doesn't mean we and all my friends. It means I, the Queen of England, am not amused. You don't want to hear that. Okay. Now, I was in Jerusalem some years ago, and I asked a head of a Jewish yeshiva, which is a Bible college. I asked, what do you think? And he told me what the common thing is. He says, now, the angels were present at creation. We know that because Job tells us that. The angels are not creators, but they were present. God recognized them as also being created in the image of God. And he doesn't do anything without telling his friends, his associates. So this was God's way of telling the angels, we're going to do this. So that's the Jewish point of view. I have one final thought in light of the New Testament. And maybe it's a little, I like the simple idea of deliberation, but I also like this thought of prophecy. So when God created Adam and Eve, did he know they were going to sin? I think yes. Well, by their sin, they separated themselves from God. They thwarted his purpose. Why did he even bother creating them when he knew it was going to be a failure? Because the Bible says the Lamb was slain from the foundation of the world. Now, there was not a lamb sitting in heaven. There was not a human being sitting in heaven. But in the plan of God, if I can use it this way, God says, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do this. Even though I know they're going to sin and I know they're going to mess it up, I've already got a plan to restore them. It's still worthwhile to go ahead because I will still have a people. I will still have a church. I will still have humans throughout eternity. Why? Because of Calvary, the cross, the Son of God. Could it be that God was looking forward to time, not to someone sitting by his side saying, hey, let's do this, but looking to that man hanging on the cross and saying, for this creation to be fulfilled, there's going to have to be a recreation. Let us make man. A prophetic utterance to Jesus Christ on the cross saying, we're going to do this. No matter what the devil does, we're still going to have a plan. Let us make man.
Very good. Well, that was just fabulous right there. Pastor Gentry, I'm going to let y'all, Aubrey, go turn the air up a little bit. People are cold in here.